Recently I was asked who was the bright shining star on the horizon for the GOP. I did not hesitate in responding, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, former governor of the Palmetto State of South Carolina, Nikki Haley. Ambassador Haley has been a steely-eyed killer when it comes to staring down the Russians, North Korea, Iran, and the entire cabal of despots, autocrats, and theocrats that comprise the dubious global body politic we call the United Nations. I recall a year ago when she was announced as the UN ambassador how the liberal progressive left denigrated, disparaged, and disrespected her and dismissed her accomplishments. They made comments about her competence and ability to understand foreign policy. They displayed the typical leftist hypocrisy when it comes to the real war on women, conservative women. Well, today, there will be another confrontation between Ambassador Haley and this gathering of, well, chuckleheads. And unlike the previous UN ambassador, Samantha Power, Ambassador Haley will shine in competence, resolute strength and intestinal fortitude. As reported by NPR, the United Nations will vote in an emergency session Thursday on a draft resolution that criticizes President Trump's decision to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. But as the Trump administration is making clear, any country that votes in favor of the resolution could face retaliation from the U.S. The United States ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, sent a letter of warning to most of the United Nations' 193 member states. The Associated Press reports the president will be watching this vote carefully and has requested I report back on those countries who voted against us, she wrote. According to the AP, we will take note of each and every vote on this issue. Haley said the Trump administration is simply asking that you acknowledge the historical friendship, partnership, and support we have extended and respect our decision about our own embassy. In a tweet, she was more direct. At the UN we're always asked to do more and give more. So, when we make a decision, at the will of the American PPL, apt where to locate our embassy, we don't expect those we've helped to target us. On Thursday there'll be a vote criticizing our choice. The US will be taking names. I like the message that Nikki sent yesterday at the United Nations. For all those nations that take our money and then they vote against us at the Security Council, or they vote against us potentially at the Assembly, Trump said, according to the Wire service. The Trump administration said its decision to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem recognizes the reality that it is the seat of Israel's government. But Palestinians living there seek part of the city as a capital for a future independent state. U.S. policy has been that the city's status will be resolved in peace talks. The resolution is similar to one that came before the Security Council on Monday. The United States exercised its veto power as a permanent member of the Council, but the other 14 members all approved it, including U.S. allies Britain and Japan. So the United Nations is now in the business of telling the United States, its largest donor country, where we can, or cannot, locate our own embassy, and to think that we have Britain and Japan, two countries in need of U.S. support, whether it be against militant Islamic jihadism or the crazed tyrant dictator of North Korea, would cast a vote against the U.S. Unconscionable. We've explained here on these pages countless times how the word Palestine was introduced in the region that is also known as the Levant. The region has always been the ancestral home to the Jewish people, the nation, the state, of Israel. And Jerusalem, the city of David, has been that capital. There has never been a Palestinian state. As a matter of fact, there were never any so-called Palestinians until Yasser Arafat made it an Islamic terrorist movement with his Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO. These are Arabs who created such a disturbance in Jordan, the original two-state solution, that they were exiled, kicked out, and they migrated into Lebanon. They have been successful, due to misleading propaganda and the support of the United Nations progressive leftists in garnering support, all the while continuing to perpetrate and support Islamic terrorism. Jerusalem is Jerusalem, and must not be divided to appease those who utilize violence and the threats of violence to secure their perverted objectives. Simply stated, Ambassador Nikki Haley, our voice in the United Nations, will not be held hostage to coercion, threats, intimidation, and violence from Islamic jihadists nor the jihadist enablers of the United Nations. Nikki Haley is not Samantha Power, and President Donald Trump is not the feckless weakling and Islamist sympathizer, Barack Obama. Remember that just a year ago, the United States, as a parting gift from Obama and Power, allowed a UN Security Council resolution condemning Israel to pass. Well, let me share some Southern lexicon with the UN folks, that DAWG don't hunt anymore. I fully expect every nation calling itself an ally to the United States that votes in support of a resolution condemning our president for upholding U.S. law. Yes, since 1995 recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital has been law on moving our embassy as well. Sadly, we've had a series of presidents who chose to waive this law, and cower to Islamic terrorists no more. America can certainly benefit by withholding funding support to the UN. We can also benefit by cutting off foreign aid to those nations voting against the US. And perhaps, this whole thing about diplomatic immunity needs to be re-examined. It's time to stop allowing the UN to believe they have any moral high ground. Quite the contrary. The seat of government for the State of Israel is located in Jerusalem. No bunch of Islamic jihadist threats should preclude recognizing such. Today we shall see who are indeed our allies. More importantly, we will see who indeed would rather survive on their knees rather than stand for liberty and freedom. I remember the stare of now deceased but legendary University of Tennessee Lady Vols basketball coach, Pat Summitt. Nikki Haley has the same stare. And she backs it up. One day, I look forward to saying President Nikki Haley. Now that's for whom I would cast my vote as America's first woman president.